Hey guys, welcome to the next VFX tutorial. This is going to be awesome. All you Blender heads out there, I'm about to swear at you. You ready? Yeah, that's right. And you know what? I also think... Do you feel insulted? Do you feel insulted? This week is going to be cool because we're trying out a different software. Hey guys, this is the next VFX tutorial and we are continuing from last week. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't stress about it. If you're interested in Maya, this is definitely the right tutorial for you because I'm going to show you just to get you started so you don't have to go and research and look through hours and hours worth of keyboard shortcuts and how-tos. I'll show you some very basic stuff. Alright, so let's get started. So last week I looked at an interview with a VFX artist, and one of the things that he spoke about was to be a good VFX artist. Learn different suites, don't just stick to one. Why? Because, well, let's say you get hired by a studio to do a specific job and they work with different software. That means then you got to learn their software, or you've got to suffer. So there were three softwares that I mentioned. The one was Maya, the other one was Substance, another software called Nuke, or otherwise there's another one called Houdini. I'm taking on the challenge. I'm going to do a trial on each of the softwares and I'll give a report back. Now Maya is nothing new to me. I have done Maya before back in 2018, so it's been a good 3-4 years since I've touched Maya. So I did have to retrain myself again, and there were some good old habits that did come back. And so I'm going to show you some of the shortcut keys that I've learned. Alright, so to start off, this was the item that I modeled. This is Blender, this is not Maya, in case you think Maya looks exactly the same. I also did the same, I modeled it exactly in Maya as well. And so first of all, just looking at the interface here, you've got the different toolboxes that are up here, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing poly modeling, sculpturing, rigging, animation, etc., Maya has already created for you your set of tools that you'll be needing. Exactly the same in Maya as we've got these different workspaces. Alright, the second thing is that in Blender you've got your collections. In Maya you have your outliner where all your different objects are. There's a lot more to outliner than I was able to explore. I know that you can create hierarchies, you can sort of group things together, and within those groups you can also manipulate. So for example, I can have this whole screwdriver within a hierarchy and then I can rotate it, and it's pretty awesome. The other thing is that in Blender you had your project panels sitting on the side here. In Maya you've got these panels over here. So you see it's not too far off, just each panel has a different meaning. In Blender, every different panel was a specific property for a specific function. Over here, you select an object, and then the cool thing about Maya is that you got basically the whole history over here, which means that if I want to go back to a specific point, I can click on it and it'll take me back to that point. This does make the machine heavy, and I remember I often found myself having to delete the history if it gets too heavy. I did not come across any of that modeling this out. The next thing is navigation. Now navigation was something that I had to get used to. So first of all, what I loved about Blender was that it worked well. I've got an iMac, and even with my Mac I've got a MacBook Pro. The Apple's Mighty Mouse and as well as Apple's trackpad worked quite similar, right? So I would be able to just sort of on the Mighty Mouse move my finger around on the mouse itself to rotate around, and then I would hold down shift, hold down shift and then move my finger around. It was quite nice. With Maya on the other hand, I had to hold down Alt and click down to rotate around. And then the tricky thing is this, and I know that for a lot of Apple fans this was a big down. So if you've got a normal mouse, if you want to track and pan around, you could just middle mouse click and drag around. What I ended up doing was going into my hotkey editor, and then what the hotkey editor does is it shows you the keys that are not yet used, and I used number 8 as basically my pan and track tool. So I would press number 8, and then there out comes my track and pan tool. The next thing is zooming, so that was easy because it's just basically the zoom on your mouse, which on the trackpad it's moving my finger back and forth, which is your zoom. The next thing is focus. So if I hold down my tilde key, I'll be able to say select view selected, and then pan around it. In Maya we have the focus key, which is F, and then from there I was able to work. And it's the same as when I'm manipulating my object. If I'm selecting, so e.g. if I'm selecting a face and I press F, it will also focus on that object. Pretty cool, huh? The next thing is my select all. Alright, so the next thing is Command A to select all. Right, Control A. A. Nope. Definitely not. Okay. And as you can see, I've just lost the plot. Alright, and if you want to select everything, I guess you would press A, but that takes me to this weird look over here. But anyway, that is supposed to be select all. Okay, moving right along. If you have a couple things selected and you want to deselect, it is Alt D. That deselects everything. The next thing is in Blender to go, you would press Tab to go in and out object mode, and edit mode. In Maya, you would simply hold down your right mouse button, which then you can go straight into edge, face, or vertex selection. And once you're done manipulating, hold right key, your right mouse button, and you can go back into object mode again. And then while you are busy modeling or manipulating your object, the cool thing that I loved about Maya was basically the pie menus. Blender also has these pie menus once you get to know them, but e.g. so I would hold down shift and hold down my right mouse button, and that is where I found like basically everything. This is where I can extrude. This is where I can slide edge tool, insert edge loop, and amongst all the other tools that I've got. All right, and that's all under here. The other thing is that in Blender you had this menu over here, so I could view from any side of my object. In Maya you would hold down spacebar, right click, and then there you go, perspective view. Let's create a new scene here, and that is because I want to show you from scratch how we create and manipulate objects. So first of all, if I want to create a new object, I believe it is shift and hold down my right key. Now from here I can do my plane, my cylinder. So cylinder, cone, cube, there's all my objects amongst all the other items I can do. So let's go with our good old default cube. I can press F to focus on. So let's say for example now I want to go to face mode. I'll select the face, then I will, I guess let's extrude face. Now here's the cool thing. The minute I do that tool, extrude, it's going to show me my my manipulation tool right over here, my different axes over here, and from there I can pull it out, okay? Or let's say I want to extrude it this way, so I can actually use this tool over here with my different to extrude how I want. And you can see how it's got these squares on the side here, and that basically means along my Z and my X, that means along my X and my Y. So you can see I'm not moving in this direction, I'm moving along that direction, and this little block over here is along my Z and my Y. See? Going literally back and forth. The other thing, take note, which I actually just remembered now, in Blender, Z is up, alright, in Maya, Z is, yes, in that direction, and your Y is actually up. Pretty weird, hey? Okay, so let's do a extrude. Well, let's do a insert edge loop. The other thing is that, yes, let's go back to my normal select tool. I can press Q as well. Alright, shift, left click, there you go, insert edge loop. And the way that they've done this in Maya is a bit different, and that is I can select on whichever edge I want to do the edge loop, and then I can drag. I'm still holding it down, so I click and drag. So click and drag, etc. Click and drag. So there I insert my edge loops. I can then right click, go back to face, select, and then shift select, extrude face. And if I want to rotate it, right. So here's the other thing about the tool. If you want to select a edge loop, right? So I will go into my right click, edge loop. Now in Blender, you would alt and select, right? Well, I can just double click and it'll select the edge loops for me already. So let's say I select this face. I select the face, and using the shortcut W, which is your move, E, which is your rotate, and R, which is your scale. Alright, so I can scale from this point, I can maybe scale only, I can scale along the X, I'm guessing, and that would be Z. So you would use those manipulation tools. Now, when I was modeling, I did enjoy this method a lot more, I must be honest with you. Okay, so let's go back into object mode. I'll right click, hold down right click, go to object mode, and then I want to go under different shading, you know, so let's say so I'm just going to insert a light. I'll put it in area light. Alright, I'm going to press W to move it up, E to rotate, there you go. So now I've got my light, and now I want to see what my lights look like. I can either go over here, so this will show you your different render views, or on my keyboard I can press from 4 is basically wireframe mode. Alright, 5 is shaded smooth, 6 is shaded plus textured, I don't have a texture on here, and 7 is use light. So there you go, so there's my lights. With my light selected, I can press W again and I can move it closer, and if you forgot the keys here, they're all over here. The other thing is when it comes to smoothing, so in Blender you would just go into the modify menu and you would add in your subdivide modifier. The nice thing about Maya is you don't have to add a subdivide modifier between keys 1, 2 and 3. Alright, so number 1, pressing 1 would show you in your normal flat shading mode. Number 2 would show you the smooth mode with the flat surface mode sort of mesh on it, and number 3 would show you the smooth mode in there. Alright, and I can go back to 1, and I go back, if I press 1, then I again go back to my flat surface mode. So 1, 2, 3, that's pretty cool. And I can press 7 for my lighting, I remember that. 4 for mesh, there you go, with your faces on it. That's Maya in a nutshell. I hope that has helped people. I know you guys have taken notes there. What I'll do is I'll paste all of my shortcuts, notes that I've taken, in the description below. You can highlight, you can just select all of it, copy and paste it into your whatever note-taking app, and have that on the side for you to remember and to help you out while you're busy modeling. So let me quickly go briefly through what I found the differences between working and which one I prefer, and I'm going to tell you that at the end. Which software do I actually prefer? All right. Number 1, handling whilst working on my Mac, I found difficult as Maya. I honestly did, but I do remember that I got used to it, and I've had my tips and tricks, and I remember I spent hours modeling, so I was into it. All right, it's just probably because I've now recently been on Blender that I was not used to Maya, but it is something that I can definitely get used to. Manipulating the object with the tools, you know, the move, rotate and scale, like I said, I prefer that in Maya. But when it came to applying materials, now the cool thing about Maya is that Maya comes with something with substance. And I've spoken about Substance before. Substance is basically an Adobe software that you actually subscribe to. You pay a monthly subscription and you get substances like textures, shaders, and that plugs directly into Maya. You can create your own textures and that as well with Substance. It's a very cool, realistic engine. When you subscribe, you can also, you know, if you need to quickly grab a really good texture, great realistic looking texture online. I didn't find it as easy as Blender in Maya. It just felt a bit hard. I know you use the shader editor, and I found Blender much easier. The other thing that I recommend in Maya is check out the modeling toolkit, which is this toolkit right on the side here. You've basically got a lot of shortcuts at hand right over here, like your symmetry, putting your symmetry on and off. There's your multi-cut. There's all sorts of cool tools that are there. Definitely have a look at that. Long story short, alright, Maya is costly. Alright, I downloaded a 30-day trial for Maya. You can go check it out, how much the software itself costs. I think there's a monthly option. Go have a look at that. I think there is a monthly option for Maya, and of course every year they bring out a updated version of Maya. It is costly. It's a bit costly for me, unless you can afford it. You can go ahead and do it, but because Blender is available, I don't think I'm going to get Maya. I'm going to stick with Blender definitely, but Maya would definitely be something that I could get used to, alright, if if I had to work, if I didn't have a choice but work on it, I think I'd get into it. I think I'd love it. I do like Maya, but the final verdict is that I didn't find it worth developing myself further in Maya. Alright, I modeled the screwdriver from scratch, the same thing that I did in Blender, and I stopped before I was going to even do the screwdriver head. I just said I'm spending a lot of time on Maya and my trial will end in 20 days time. What is the point? So in the next video we're going to be looking at the Substance software. I got a chance to explore it a little bit, and I'm going to create a cool material, do something cool in Substance, and then we'll look at the other softwares as well, Houdini and all of those other softwares. Alright guys, so I know you like this video, so hit the like button and please subscribe, because I know that you want to support what we're doing here at Active TV. See you guys in the next video. Cheers.
It's all about humanity.